Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and today we're going to be talking about popularity in the Marvel Superheroes Advanced Role-Playing Game. All right, let's get right into it. So what is popularity? All right, popularity is something that you're going to be creating right from the very get-go. Before you even get into your powers, for the most part, you're going to be getting into your popularity, all right? And certain aspects of your character, depending on your origin, will affect your popularity. We're not going to get into detail with that now. That's going to be when we talk about the individual characters. But we will be talking a little bit about with mutants later because it's kind of crucial. It's kind of important. Okay, so popularity comes into play anytime that a PC, a player character, wants to interact with another NPC. All right? Now, it's not every single time. Case in point, if you want to buy a stereo system, that's a resources fee. All right? But if you're trying to get a discount, that's something entirely different. And you bring that up with your judge. As the judge, you think about all that good stuff. You know what I'm saying? We talked about resources, but with popularity, that's a good way to maybe buy something that should be a slightly higher resource rank, or at least to get a second resource feat roll at the same rank. Anyway, that being said, what is popularity in and of itself? This is a combination of how good you look. You remember the comeliness score in the second edition of Dungeons and Dragons, all right, before the advanced player system. Yeah, comeliness, that. Anyway, this is also a measure of, like, let's say, how well you talk. This is a measure of your confidence. This is a measure of how good your suit looks, how good you look. Have you showered recently? This is, it's that sort of a thing. The difference between looking at Wolverine, scruffy and just falling apart and, oh, dude, you stink like cigars, man. What are you doing? And the difference between, looking at him and looking at, let's say, a character like North Star, who has things together and has that pompous attitude, like, there's a huge difference right there. All right. There's a reason why characters like Namor, even though he's kind of a villain, will have a pretty high popularity score because he is a ruler. He speaks with a voice that is just unprecedented. Someone who inspires, like Captain America. Someone who leads a large and powerful nation, like T'Challa, the Black Panther. All of these characters are inherently going to have a pretty decent popularity. All right, unless you're a ruthless dictator, in which case you actually want the lower popularity. Case in point, Dr. Doom, when he's actually in his Dr. Doom form. Okay, so, and this also goes by your reputation, all sorts of different things. So, when you're going to make a popularity feat roll, yes, it is an actual feat roll. It's not just a pretty number to look at. You will actually act as though this is different ranks. So if you have 10 points of popularity, you have good popularity. You will be rolling under that rank. Now, to raise your popularity, you can spend karma, technically, all right, to raise your popularity. There's no reason why you can't, but I strongly recommend against it, okay? I haven't seen any place in the player's handbook that says that you can't, but whatever. I strongly recommend against it because popularity is something that shifts and changes like the ebb and flow of the tides, all right? Very specifically, when you make the so there is no cresting fee, but regardless, when you make a feat roll, it's going to depend on how the character is, what the disposition of the character is according to you. So your popularity obviously would be different than their popularity, and you might want to come with the team's popularity as opposed to your popularity by and of yourself, right? The difference between Quicksilver talking to someone on behalf of the Avengers and, let's say, Thor talking to someone on behalf of the Avengers. Huge difference, right? So that's why you usually put your best face forward. So that being the case, if you have a friendly person who you're speaking with, all right, then in order to get what you want from this person, you simply need to make in the green, right? White fails. Green, yellow, red succeeds. What is a friendly person? A friendly person is a close friend, a family member, potentially, or a contact, someone who you've actually spent a contact slot on. These are friendly people. Now, neutral, someone who is neutral. Basically, the four feats, the four dispositions of people will be friendly, neutral, unfriendly, and hostile. So only one on the good side, one neutral, and two not looking so good, right? The trials and travails of being a hero, especially in the Marvel Universe, right? So Neutral. Neutral, in order to succeed on a popularity feat with someone who is neutral towards you, you have to get in the yellow. So a green and a white both fail. A person who is neutral to you is someone who's never met you. These could be other heroes who've never worked with you before. All right, the first time that Captain America and Spider-Man met up, they had to really assess each other. Even though Spider-Man knew of Captain America and was really infatuated with still the idea of he was trying to be tough with them. He was trying to, show that he's, all that. And he wound up making mistakes trying to impress him. And Captain America had no idea who this guy was except through what the Daily Bugle said. And he didn't attack him, but he did kind of give the impression of, listen, man, you act out of place, I will put you down. And if we fight, you will go down. So regardless of today, back then, don't argue that. Just don't argue that. So, people who are neutral are also like large groups of strangers, or when you're going to add into this, people who know that you want something. Okay, somebody who's neutral or whatever, but they know you want something. So even a friendly, like a contact, who you all of a sudden get in a lot of trouble with. Let's say there could be an opportunity where or a time, not an opportunity for the player character who comes to a friendly contact and says, hey man, and then the contact says, oh yeah, had a feeling I'd be seeing you pretty soon. There's a chance that, he or she might respond to you neutrally. Plus, if you left that contact in a very bad situation prior, case in point, if you borrowed some piece of equipment to take down the Venom symbiote or the Carnage symbiote, some sonic disruptor, and as a prototype, and it wound up getting destroyed in the process. You couldn't return it. You come back with a lousy excuse. The next time that you see this contact, you may only meet this contact with a neutral stance. Good thing it's a contact, and you can lose contacts, but we're going to get into that later. So an unfriendly person, all right, someone who would the disposition is unfriendly towards you, you need a red feat in order to succeed, all right, to get what you want from this person. So I suggest spending karma. This is just all about trying to, really put that extra, lay the cheese on, lay it on thick. But this is someone who's never heard of you before. Someone who's an absolute total stranger. It could even be somebody who is neutral but offended by you, So maybe they haven't heard of you at all. And for the most part, this person should be neutral, but they just saw you doing something that they feel is questionable. It could be something that you actually gained karma from, but this person, maybe it goes against their religion, or something like that, We've seen plenty of times where, let's say, Captain Marvel, when she was just Miss Marvel, when she would do something really heroic, but somebody comes along, it's just like, not wearing a lot of clothes there, are you, honey? So, right away, wow, this person's offended just by meeting you. So people are judgmental. People are not just the judge. People are judgmental. And a hostile person, this is an impossible feat. You absolutely cannot get anything from this person. Not by a roll. Not by a roll. This will actually be you as a player character trying to negotiate with the judge who's controlling this NPC. This hostile, this somebody who's, let's say, a sworn enemy of you, you know what I'm saying? Or someone who's just actively opposing the hero. So let's say you come across Dr. Octopus for the very first time, and he's in a nuclear power plant, and he's trying to start it back up and overload it so that he could try and, give extra juice to his arms or something. He's trying to, work with a chemical ingredient. And he is a nuclear physicist, so he probably knows about this stuff a lot more than you do, more than your character does. And your character comes in and is like, hey, Doc Ock, and turns around. It's like, okay, hero. He is not hostile. He is unfriendly. So you could potentially get him to, stand down or whatever with a red popularity feat roll. You might. You never know. It's up to the judge, whatever. But here's this person doing something, and you walk in, and let's say you say, listen, I understand that you're going to do this, and I trust you. You might lose karma for this, but if you just simply give me one piece of uranium and you keep all the rest, I need it so that I can try and, do something to cure somebody, burn a disease out of somebody. Just one piece, one small piece of uranium. With a red feat, you might actually succeed. but then you're going to lose a lot of karma when he accidentally blows up the entire East Coast with this overcharged nuclear generator. Anyway, there's all sorts of different things that can oppose you. So, but the first time that a villain meets a player character, he or she will be unfriendly, not necessarily hostile. But once you've beaten this enemy before or proven that you absolutely will not work with this person, yeah, and you can see this in the comics all the time. That's when the villain is like, hey man, we could work together really well. Can you imagine if you and me teamed up? Imagine when, think about when the Green Goblin first met the Amazing Spider-Man. Do you realize how powerful it would be if we teamed up? No? Your answer is no? What a shame. Suddenly he just switches, flip mode right there, from hostile or neutral even to hostile. Not looking good. Not looking good. So, how do these people react to you if you fail a popularity feat roll? Failing a popularity feat roll with a contact or somebody, you will be politely refused and usually with a good reason. All right, so let's say one of my favorite examples to use is the Captain America Civil War movie. So Civil War? No, Winter Soldier. So the second Captain America movie, The Winter Soldier. Nick Fury goes and sends Captain America and a small team to do this deed, right, on this battleship in the very beginning of the movie. And Scarlet Witch has her own agenda someplace. Captain America is the team leader, and he didn't know that she had her own agenda. So he needs her to be someplace, and she's not, because she's trying to fulfill this one mission first. Okay, so he goes back. He's obviously infuriated with Nick Fury. It's like, you sent someone along with me, and I expected this person to answer my call, but she didn't because you had a different agenda for this, and I didn't even know about it. At least if I would have known that she was going to be doing that during the time, then maybe, such and such. Well, I didn't tell you because I didn't think you were going to approve of the mission. You just affected this person's morals at this point. He is now complicit. Captain America is now complicit in the hostile takeover of a shield carrier that was in unfriendly waters. Knows it's not supposed to be there. Didn't drift over there. So Nick Fury, and the way that he's obviously not adding karma to this. If if Nick Fury would have been, it's not in his personality, would have added karma to his role. Like, Cap, look, I am so sorry. You need to understand how important it was. Look, let me show you why I had to do this stuff. That's one thing. Maybe he would have succeeded, and Captain America would have simply went from a friendly contact to a neutral contact. It's a possibility, and then Nick could just work on trying to, improve that relationship again. But instead, what happens is he pretty much lost that contact. He pretty much lost Captain America as a contact, He was not happy with him being in his apartment later on and all that stuff. Anyway, and he only wound up exacerbating the situation and making it worse. So that is a good example of actually losing a contact. Anyway, on average, let's say you want to ask a contact, hey, listen, I need to borrow a car. Okay, I've got a contact with a Mercedes-Benz. Hey, listen, I need to borrow a Mercedes because I need to look cool when I'm going into this party in disguise. So I need to go undercover. Hey, man, you got a contact with this person. He or she might just allow you to do it, but they might also say no because you wind up, destroying the last Mercedes, or you seem to be borrowing Mercedes an awful lot. Hey, I need to go to the local drugstore and pick something up. I need to look cool, man. Nah, too much. Overtaxing that contact. Remember, contacts are not necessarily someone who's just going to bend over backwards for you. Contact is someone who's going to be mutual with you. Don't forget, a contact can call on you just as quickly as you can call on a contact. Never forget that, or you will be reminded by your judge. So the contact may simply say, yeah, no, sorry, with good reason. I can't do that for you. Failing a roll with a neutral person, someone whose disposition is neutral towards you, it'll be a curt refusal, and the potential for shifting the next time that you meet up with this person from neutral to unfriendly, possibly even hostile, depending on, how you deal with the situation afterwards, how you deal with rejection. Some people aren't good with rejection, I'm just saying. An unfriendly an unfriendly person or crowd of people who you fail a roll with could potentially turn hostile. So it could turn ugly quick, and it could even turn violent, all right? And that's all going to depend on who you are and all that good stuff. Now, you have to allow for certain column shifts, all right? And page 40 gives a good example of that. So, not page 40, more specifically, page 18 deals with that. If the target benefits from what you're trying to do, so whether this is a a friendly, a neutral, or an unfriendly person, as long as it's not hostile, then you could potentially get a +2 column shifts to your roll. So, hey man, I've got incredible popularity. I'm awesome. But you're going to be rolling under monstrous because this other person benefits from what you're trying to do. You know, that whole win-win situation. Always try for a win-win situation, even in games. So if the target is placed in danger, -3 column shifts. Hey man, getting Turk to talk is hard enough, but actually getting Turk to make himself into a patsy, good luck. All the beatings in the world in Josie's bar is not going to help out that situation. If the item in question, so if it's a service, if it's service, it's one thing, but if it's an item that you're looking to borrow, if it's up to good value, you're talking about a -1 column shift. Up to remarkable value, you're talking about -2 column shifts. If the item is unique, once again, hey, Mr. Watcher, you think I could borrow that ultimate nullifier? It's just like some flash cash. I just want to show that I'm awesome. When I go into nowhere and hang out. Yeah, good luck with that. -3 column shifts. If there's a good chance that the item will not be returned, -2 column shifts. So Deadpool usually doesn't return things. People usually don't let him borrow things, which is why he's really good at stealing. But, hey, there should always be a plan B. And he's usually got plan P. So the idea is that your reputation precedes you. Always. All right. And how you're going to deal with the way that people respond to you is an entirely different thing. Like if you, the example that I love the best is Peter Parker, Spider-Man trying to, but do remind you, secret identities do mean something and they are very beneficial, right? Something that affects you in your private life is very different from something that affects you in a superhero life. Right now, currently, as we speak, what is it, the 11th of February, 2018, Dan Slott is returning Peter Parker to, right before he leaves the comic, he's actually returning Peter Parker to his normal ways, where, Peter Parker is not loved so much, but because of what's happening in his life with webware falling apart and his Parker Industries falling apart. But over here, Spider-Man is still kind of loved. So huge reversal there from before, where Peter Parker was like, oh, hey, you're that photographer for the Daily Bugle, right? Cool. And meanwhile, Spider-Man has a completely different popularity because that mask changes your popularity. This is true across the board. So anyway, when you think about if, you go up to someone and, with your secret identity and, you're like, oh, hey, I'm Michelin Man, whatever. You go up there and somebody had a bad experience with mufflers before, they may wind up throwing something at you to get out of their face. But then if you go up as the general, regular old guy, oh, you seem like a nice enough person. Yeah, sure. Here you go. You can take the keys to my car. You know what I'm saying? So depends on who you're talking to, how you're talking to them, and who is talking to them. So consider that. Gaining and losing karma is usually based on, again, if you want to spend karma, did I say karma before? Gaining and losing popularity is based on, it's super fluid. All right, it's like a superfluid in the game. If you want to spend karma on gaining and losing popularity, I personally, as a judge, I do not see any problem with that whatsoever. But I only see it as a problem for you. If you want to spend your karma in the game, by all means. I would make it much like a primary ability where you simply say 10 times the karma amount and you can 10 times the popularity amount and you could bump it from there up. So if I've got 10 karma points, if I've got 10 popularity points and I want to bump it up to 11, I will spend 100 karma points. Boom, I've got 11. And cresting is not an issue with popularity. It's simply not. That's just the house rule that I would make for it. Defeating normal villains will not give you any popularity. However, defeating a costume villain will give you +2 popularity. Being defeated in public can subtract 5 popularity from you. Being accused of a crime can actually take away. It will actually swipe half of your total popularity. Oof. And if you're part of a team, I would say that would affect something also. Like people are going to have to make a quick public statement to see what happens. There's a really good chance that they could lose a quarter, in my opinion. They could lose a quarter up to half of their popularity, like a quarter right away, and maybe the other quarter to drop them by half. if their public statement is not really good, like make a popularity feat at the lower rank, well, we're investigating, we're putting them on temporary suspension until we can figure out exactly what's going on. Remember, people, we go by the court of law, not the court of public opinion. Well, unfortunately, standard popularity does work in the court of public opinion. So, if you are completely cleared of charges, you only get plus 10 popularity. So if you've already got a low popularity to begin with, that could actually be good for you. It's like, maybe I thought all wrong about this person. But if you're somebody like Captain America with 100 popularity, you get accused of a crime. You're down to 50 popularity. Now, when all of a sudden you're cleared of all charges, you only go up to 60 popularity. You don't go back to 100 popularity or 110, God forbid. No. Instead, people still look at you and be like, well, I don't know, man. Why? My opinion? Because we love to see our heroes fall, don't we? All right, guys. So if you're found guilty of a charge, you lose all of your popularity. You go down to zilch, zero, not a big fat goose egg. You get nothing. Move on, sir. A media attack, like a smear campaign, something that Spider-Man is very familiar with, -5 karma. If you do charity work, +1 karma. And if you do a rescue, +2 karma. So each person that you rescue is +2 to your karma. Now, certain things will affect you, obviously. The mutant penalty. Any award or penalty of popularity is reduced by 1 in value. I want to stress that the key word there is any. So that means that if you defeat a costume villain, instead of getting +2 popularity, you only get +1 popularity for that. So it's literally like, nice, pretty cool, for a mutant. That doesn't affect your karma. It does, however, affect your popularity. It is harder to gain and lose popularity because they've already got an opinion about you. So losing popularity, let's say you are defeated in public. You're not going to lose 5 karma like everybody else would. You would lose 4 karma because they kind of look at it like there's already a sense of expectation. Well, the bad guy's supposed to lose, right? So people will usually have a very, very staid yet negative disposition towards mutants. So never forget, 1 point will always be detracted from gain and loss of popularity in regards to mutants. All right. And what else do we have here? Losing contacts. I think we discussed losing contacts, but let's just delve into it a little tiny bit more. Losing a contact is easier said than done, all right? And I just want you to think of Iron Man as the perfect example. Tony Stark, Iron Man. This guy has lost more contacts than you could possibly shake a stick at, all right? Back during the Iron Wars, the Armor Wars, situation. He lost Captain America as a contact there. A guy who was willing to go to bat for him, gave personal information about himself, about his father being a drunk when Tony was down and out as a drunk, the demon in a bottle storyline. Here's a guy who by himself made an intervention when for the most part nobody else did. Tony had a really good friend in Steve Rogers, and he lost that during the Armor Wars. Why? Because look, you're doing bad things against the government here, or at least that's what it looks like. The government stole some of your information. Well, you didn't tell Steve Rogers that, did you? He was more than willing to listen to you, but you didn't listen to him, all right? And he just came to you for something. He just came to you for the shield. He wanted that adamantium shield. You made an adamantium shield for him. Awesome. But then you turn around, and when he says, hey, man, you're doing all this stuff, and you're attacking villains, and I just heard that you killed Titanium Man. What's going on here? Stark didn't want to listen. He's like, I don't have time for this. And he attacks Captain America. And it was at that point, if you read that comic book, you could see right there, you could see by the reading, by the look in Cap's eyes, man, Tony Stark lost him as a contact from that point on. And that's what continued to lead on up into the Civil War and pass up until Siege. It was finally rectified-ish, but not really, because back in Battle World, right before Battle World, the end of, right before the Secret War, all that good stuff, the end of the incursions, the final incursion, it was still bad. Steve never felt good towards Iron Man again after that because, when you lose a contact, it's bad. It's bad. So if you do anything that could potentially go against your contact's morals or their beliefs or their mission statement, if it's a business, brother, that's on you. You will potentially lose that contact. How does that happen? You're going to make a popularity feat against your contact. Now, you could choose to use karma. Absolutely, you could choose to use karma. But as the judge, I would choose to put that person in one of those situations where just, like if you're rushing to something, whatever, maybe the person doesn't have a lot of karma. For instance, Tony Stark probably didn't have a lot of karma. He just got finished killing Titanium Man. You know what I'm saying? So no karma to actually add to that role. But either way, he wound up losing that contact. So you could lose a contact if you do something that the other person doesn't like. Let's say if you've got a contact in the Department of Justice, and then you turn around and you start making a huge statement about how bad America is. Yeah, there's a real good chance that the U.S. government will disavow you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're done, brother. You're done. So consider that. You can lose a contact. And here is a major factor that I feel that I love about this game. When you look at a game like GURPS, Generic Universal Role-Playing System, and I love the GURPS system. I could play GURPS right now. I got free time. I could play right now. Pause the video, right? But it is a point-based game. And when you lose, let's say, you could buy more points by taking disadvantages. Let's say, though, that, you get a forced disadvantage on you. If you get a forced disadvantage on you, you still gain those points. And you can't immediately, there's a lock. You can't buy off that disadvantage right away. It's going to take some time, but it's still going to cost the same, right? You are only worth what you've got, and you can't have any of those points necessarily taken away from you, can you? That's an individual house rule. That's not in the actual rules, unless that's changed from the 3rd and 4th edition. All right, those are the 2 editions that I've always known and played. So, if that's the case, then it's always a give and take situation. But in Marvel, that's not quite the same. Let's say you start off with 20 popularity, and then immediately you wind up killing someone and get accused of that and going to jail. You wind up being a negative popularity, negative karmic individual at this point. So you get out of jail on some kind of a technicality. You lose your contacts that you originally started off with and everything because everybody's just disavowing you. Yeah, that can happen. And you don't get any points to buy things back later. No. You lose them. You get hit with a mutant nullifier and you're a mutant. Guess what? You lose your powers. You're done. You've got to actually buy your powers back or new ones, whatever. Likewise, losing a contact, you can buy that contact back, and it will only cost you half the karma to buy that contact back, but you can buy that contact back. Now, what about actually making new contacts? Well, that's something that's interesting. Making new contacts, let's say you start off the game, and like I said in character generation, if you start off with 3 contacts in the game, you only have to take 1 contact to actually start the game. The other 2, you could save them for later. Now, you can't, necessarily judge's discretion, but you can't turn around and it's like, okay, and all of a sudden, here's Electro standing in front of you, and he's ready to attack you, and you say, oh, I want to call in Electro's actually my contact. You could technically do that. That's happened in Jungle Adventure, the 2nd volume, where one of T'Challa's cohorts, one of his friends, is actually really good friends, old-time really good friends with the main bad guy there, Venom, with 2 M's. Not the same Venom that you're thinking of with the symbiote. Eat your brains. No, not that guy. Snake guy Venom. Anyway, Venom. So that was interesting, and he was able to play off of that friendship and actually got them out of a death trap that otherwise they would have all died in. It was a really horrible Indiana Jones type of situation where they almost died by being eaten by snakes. So they were able to get out of that because they had a contact with the main bad guy. So it's up to the judge and how well you like to do role-playing, all right? Think about how they would do that. But let's say that your player character, you've already spent all your contacts, but now you want a new contact. It's like, oh man, I just met Nick Fury. It'd be really cool if I had Nick Fury as a contact. Okay, here you go. All you have to do is spend 500 karma points. You have to actually seek out the contact. All right, you have to seek out the contact, but you seek out the contact through roleplay. You pay 500 karma points, and then whatever resource points the character is allowed to, or that you can, work with this contact, you have to spend 10 times that amount. So if this contact is worth up to good 10 resources, oh yeah, you can borrow, a shield gun, a shield authorized rifle, but I'm not going to let you borrow a hover car. All right, sorry, no Lola for you. Not a problem, man. You simply spend 1,000 karma points, 500 karma points plus plus 100 karma points for that good 10 resources. Boom, 600 karma. You got a good 10 resource friendly contact with Shield, specifically through Nick Fury. So that's how all of that is going to work. And no, you don't have to pay for the cresting or anything like that. Now, what else is there? Oh, there's negative karma. The final thing to really talk about is negative karma. This is not just for villains. Mind you, the way that you play villains' karma and their popularity is very different from the way that you play a heroes, because they're not in action nearly as often, but they do have to be affected in a really legitimate way. So, the way that you will play a character who has negative karma is different than positive karma. Okay, you will still, if somebody has 0 karma, you have to make the roll at shift 0. But let's say you have negative 10 karma. You're going to make that roll at good 10, but you can only use negative purposes for it. So case in point, let's say there is let's say there's a plane, okay, and all the passengers are on board while it's still on the tarmac. All of a sudden, Captain America charges in and says, "All right, citizens, I need everybody to get off of this plane right now because there's a problem with the plane, and I think that there's going to be a terrorist act." Okay, boom. 100 karma points, you better believe people are going to be listening to Captain America, and they're going to get off in a nice, friendly manner, okay? They're going to get down there, boom, and not hurt anybody. No one will get hurt, and he'll get all the karma points that he gets for saving, 100 karma points for saving all these people. Yeah, absolutely. But what if Wolverine goes up there? Wolverine's got like his negative 10 karma points, depending on his day, right? And he's going to board this plane. Now, he doesn't have the ability to say, "Okay, citizens, I need you all to get..." Once again, he's Canadian. "All right, citizens, I need you to disembark from the plane in a friendly, organized manner. No pushing, no shoving." No, instead he's going to look up there and he's going to, snarl and schnick, double schnicked. You know what I'm saying? And, be like, "Everybody get off the plane, bub." That's the way that he has to do things. It's got to be intimidating. It's got to be threatening. That's the only way that you can use negative karma. There's different ways you could do it. Obviously, the way that Dr. Doom would do it or Baron Mordo would do it would be different from the way that Wolverine or Sabretooth would do it, right? So, it'd be the monologue, the deadly monologue. So, you have to take all these things into play. And on top of that, this is also kind of important. When you use your positive popularity for whatever reason, boom, you get their standard karma award. But when you use your negative popularity, in the only way that you can, when you use your negative popularity to do something, it is through threats, intimidations, the promise of unfettered violence, or banishment to the dimension of the dread Dormammu, all right? All of these things, under threat of pain, all of these things will result in you losing your power, your power rank, your number of popularity in karma. So, let's say Wolverine does get everybody off the plane. That's 100 karma points, right? He saved more than 5 people. He saved 5 or more people. That's 100 karma points. Congratulations, Logan. Good job. Oh, sorry, you only get 90. Why? Well, you got negative 10 karma. And you had to use you've got negative 10 popularity, and you had to use intimidation in order to get people off. So instead of the full 100, I subtract your 10 karma, or your 10 popularity. That's going to be annoying very fast. So you only get 90 karma, and I meant to say karma that time. So that's the way that works. Guys, that is pretty much it. Any further questions about popularity and things that you can use it for, by all means, I've got a comment section below. All right, guys, keep playing. Professor Bill, Karma University. I knew that was going to happen again. Comic Book University. Class dismissed.